haphazard mining technique of digging wells down to the deposit and extracting it horizontally until depletion. Many of these often illicit mines were uncharted and, when depleted, often abandoned and forgotten. Paris had annexed its suburbs many times over the centuries, and by the 18th century, many of its arrondissements, administrative districts, were included previously mined territories.
Would you like me to take over?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Okay. And Moose is here as well. I put it in the other chat just to remind people that you were on.
Okay,
But
that's cool.
the undermined state of the left bank was known to architects as early 17th century construction of the Val de Grace Hospital. Most of its building expenses were due to its foundations, but a series of mine cave in beginning 1774 with the collapse of a house along the Rue de Neuf, near today's crossing of the Avenue Definet Racheria and the Boulevard Saint Michael, caused King Louis, whatever number that is in Roman. What is it?
King.
What number is that?
Hold up, let me catch on to it. King Louis the 16th.
Okay. To name a commission to investigate the state of the Parisian underground. This resulted in the creation of the Inspection Generale des Carrières, Inspection of Mine Service.
Right.
Are we stopping?
No, go ahead if you want.
I mean, it's up to you. The ossuary creation. The need to eliminate less innocence gained urgency from May 31st, 1780, when a basement wall in a property adjoining the cemetery collapsed under the weight of the mass grave behind it. The cemetery was closed to the public, and in all intramuros Latin within the city walls, burial was forbidden after 1780. The problem of what to do with the remains crowding intramuros cemetery was still unresolved. Mine consolidations were still occurring, and the underground around the site of the 1777 collapse that had initiated the project had already become a series of stone and masonry inspection passageways that reinforced the streets above. The mine renovation and cemetery closures were both issues within the jurisdiction of the police prefect, Police Lieutenant General Alexander Lenoir, who had been directly involved in the creation of a mine inspection service. Lenoir endorsed the idea of moving Parisian dead to the subterranean passageway that were renovated during 1782. After deciding to further renovate the Tomb Esoteric passageway for their future role as an underground specular, the idea became law in the late 1785. A well within the walled property above one of the principal subterranean passageways was dug to receive less innocence, unearthed remains, and the property itself was transformed into a sort of museum for all the headstones, sculptures, and other artifacts recuperated from the former cemetery. Beginning from an opening ceremony on April 7th the same year, the route between Les Innocents and the Clos de la Tombe Isure became a nightly procession of black cloth covered wagons carrying the millions of Parisians dead. It would take 2 years to empty the majority of Paris's cemeteries. Cemeteries whose remains were moved to the catacombs include Saint Innocent, the largest by far, with about 2 million buried over 600 years of operation. Saint Etienne de Grès, one of the oldest, Madeleine Cemetery, Arancy Cemetery, used for the victims of the French Revolution, and Notre Dame de Blanc Manteau. But this way, but by this way, the skeletal remains of several leaders of the French Revolution, including Maximilien Robespierre and Georges Danton, was transferred to the catacomb. I was gonna stop there for
Yeah,
now.
that's what I was saying. I mean, it's pretty bad when I hear your tongue twisting too. Now I was like, this
I'll
time.
slow down the reading.
Yeah, but yeah, this is probably one of the most interesting stories I've ever came across, and I tried to do a little bit of it back whenever I first got into my whole strange, bizarre, and unusual thing. I would do blogs about it, which I don't have anymore. I used to be on Blogger and Medium and stuff like that, and I do this, and then I've always wanted to go through and freaking make a video of it, and stuff like that, and kind of do something that way. But like, this is a perfect opportunity to get into it and start bringing the topic up. So,
Like I said before, I had no clue that this is what they were doing with people's skeletal remains, first of all. And then I wonder if, just because we know about it in Paris, are there other places about it that are maybe less known? And I mean, we know that there's churches made out of bones, but do you think that they started as catacombs or something similar? Or do you think vice versa, they had the potential to, well, see, I don't see how they would turn into a catacomb just because they're like a foundational landmark type thing. But I could see if they started as a catacomb and attempting to kind of cover it up, make it into a church. That would make sense. Like, I guess we have to read where they came from and how they arose.
Well, from what you were saying right there, it brings me back to a lot of the research I did, and the only thing I can come up with is the fact that we have our ideas of what our burial ceremonies really were. Okay, like today, everybody respects the human body when it's dead. You know what I mean? They put it in the casket and they bury it in the ground, and they even put a nice suit on it and stuff.
Unless they cremate it, then how do we know that that's the body that goes?
Yeah,
how do we know for a fact? Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still sanitized and
yeah, embalmed and stuff like that.
You know what I mean? Even
they don't just toss it into
even when they embalm something, it's pretty respectable about how they do it.
Not when they cremate them, though. They just throw it into an incinerator and let it come out as ash. Now, that is wild stuff.
Okay.
Have you seen the cremation process?
Let me tell you a little bit about what they used to do, and like,
Okay.
this goes even back farther in Europe, especially. Like, they believed that the freaking bones had to be cleaned. Okay, they would go and they would wash the freaking, or they would cut the body up.
Oh my gosh!
And a lot of the things,
Right.
and they would wash the bones.
Oh.
Okay, and then after they washed the bones, they would take what was left and they would put it in a pile in the freaking tombs. And sometimes they would use one tomb for more than one body. Okay.
That's how they did with They do that now with the cremation. You can get anybody's bones. They tell you that it's your people's ashes, but what happens if some of the other ashes are left over? But like, that's disgusting. You're telling me that they would skin people to quote unquote clean the bones? That's just
They'll
disgusting.
cut them up.
Oh, that's so gross.
It'd be different body parts and stuff.
Oh, what the hell? That's so nasty. Just so that they could clean the bones, to bury just the bones.
It was important to wash the bones.
Oh gosh.
The bones
Just
had to be
imagine the
clean.
mess that's making. Just imagine it. And then bodies get so hard after, maybe they're doing it right after it happens, because bodies get hard after they have been dead for a while. So like, that's just insane. And hold on, I have a question. Do bodies get hard even if they have not been embalmed?
Well, yeah. It's when they stiffen up, that's part of the natural process.
Yeah, it's like 6 to 8 hours though. The body does not get stiff until like 6 to 8 hours after it's been dead. It can't happen 30 minutes or 45 minutes later. It doesn't happen that fast.
Well, dang, Moose is here. Hey, Moose.
Yeah.
You know how, you know how to unmute, right? Or you're muted. I hope that should be the first question.
He probably does. He put it.
All right. Now, if you want to say hi, you can. You don't have to, though. Oh, you already sent him a message. I was doing the reading, wasn't even on the thing. But yeah, that
That's that.
that was one of the issues that freaking they had. And then like they don't really tell you a lot about Paris either, because like Paris for the longest time they didn't want to have anything to do with what was going on outside of their city, because first they had Britannica, and then they had frickin' the southern part of France, which were split up, and they were fighting against one another. And Paris always wanted to stay frickin' independent of both of them. And like you'll learn that if you ever read about Joan of Arc.
I heard of her before, but I never really read much other than what I had to in school. Like it was never like a free, you know what I mean? Like let me go read Joan of Arc. Like the only reason I got interested in the Iliads is because wild, because we were talking about Palestinian and like a little bit of Roman history. Robot brings that up quite often. But besides that, why did Elon Musk tweet like the Iliad's great story to read? And I was like, that's crazy. I definitely am going to have to indulge with this, because how are we going to sit here and have it on this side and then it's on this side? So yeah, that's the only reason I got caught up in that. Like I had to do that in school. I wouldn't be interested in it being my own personal reading, but because we talk about it and then it's been like a subject matter around different type of platforms, it made me interested. So I've been reading it. Even your story that we read on Mondays, which you're finally going to read to me tomorrow, is it makes me it like kind of parallels with some similar ideals and like just some type of practices. And so I mean, like I said, it was almost like a sign to me. When I see stuff over and over again, I take it as a sign.
Well, I mean, the story that I'm going to be reading to you is created by me, so there's going to be a lot of this mixed into it. You know what I mean? Because I'm just basically going off of what I know when I write. I don't try to like
Mimic anyone. You're doing it for
know.
your. I don't even like being in, like when I'm writing. If I'm doing music or if I'm writing my own stories, like if I'm writing a make believe story, I don't like to be influenced. I don't like to be influenced by anyone in general, because then I don't feel original. Like I don't like to really look to people for guidance or anything like that. I kind of look to myself, and I do the opposite of what most people do. They look for like influence, but me, I'll sit here and I'll attempt to remove any influence so I can see what I'm thinking. And that's one of those things that I kind of like about your story, because it's interesting. Like I never heard of anybody that's like Tiana. Tiana is a wild girl. Like you
Yeah.
like her thirst for blood. You gotta say it with, you know what I mean? Like when you say it, like I can hear like her thirst for blood as she, da, da, da. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think about. And like I told you, I can see her with her breastplate, and she has a shield on her back and her sword, and she's just standing on top of the hill, wiping her face, and she has blood all over her arms from her last victim. And when she wipes her face, the blood kind of gets all over her face. And like, yeah, I can like, I don't know. It's just I can see her. I guess I like her character. I don't know why. It's kind of wild. It makes me question myself a little bit, but I do like her character. I love Tiana.
Like I said, it makes me question myself.
Right, it's a little bit. Like why is
Why
she
am
so
I
highly
liking this so
relatable?
much?
Why is she so relatable? You said thirst for blood, you say.
Yeah,
That's, oh
right.
wow, she just kills everything in her path, you say. This is like getting more and more interesting, more and more
So,
relatable. Stay tuned for Mondays, like
so like here I can click this and maybe share it on the some of the pictures and stuff, and share it on the
screen share.
screen share. And
Kidoki.
get that set up and good to go. If I can.
Are you gonna go through the 8 churches after you do this one? You're gonna go through the 8, right?
Yeah,
Kidoki.
it's all coming out. It's the good stuff. So let me see if I can figure out what I'm doing here. Yeah, there we go. And can you see that?
Oh wow, yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. So I can pop this as full screen too, and see if it looks. Yeah, there you go. That's
I used to
really.
be so intimidated by skulls, but I'd probably be rubbing my hand over every single one if I walked through there.